Russian President Vladimir Putin has arrived in the Chinese capital for a 3-day visit. It's his third trip in just over a year, as China and Russia look to deepen their relationship. He was welcomed by his Chinese counterpart, President Xi Jinping. China and Russia have grown increasingly closer, with both promising to expand their economic, political and military cooperation. President Xi also presented President Putin with China's first ever Friendship Medal in the Golden Hall of the Great Hall of the People. The Order of Friendship is China's highest honor for foreign nationals and is for outstanding contributions to China's construction of its socialist modernization, communication and cooperation with foreign countries and maintenance of world peace. Xi congratulated Putin on winning the first Friendship Medal and expressed his respect and admiration for Putin's contribution to building a peaceful world. President Putin then expressed his gratitude for receiving such an honor.
Since Vladimir Putin was first sworn in as the country's leader in the year 2000, he has visited China 14 times and held some 40 meetings with the Chinese leader. The Russian and Chinese governments are bonding closer politically and economically. In the words of Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, the sky is the limit for China-Russia ties. Let's take a look back at some significant moments over the past 18 years.
A high-level and comprehensive strategic partnership. As Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi says, relations between China and Russia are now at the best level in history. But this was not built in a day. The current nature of political and economic cooperation between the two countries has been cultivated since the year 2000, when Vladimir Putin was first sworn in as Russian leader. China and Russia's political mutual trust has been strengthened in the past 18 years. As two major and responsible countries in the world, China and Russia have always shown consistent attitudes in regional and international issues of common concern, such as draft resolution of Syrian issue.
Those against.
The two countries have also supported each other in regional security. Joint military exercises have become a routine of cooperation between the two militaries. A total of 11 joint military exercises have been held in the past 13 years. Putin has expressed his strong commitment to safeguarding China's regional security.
On the South China Sea case, Russia supports China's position that the South China Sea arbitration by the Provisional Arbitration Tribunal of The Hague is not recognized. This is the legal position of Russia, not the political one.
Meanwhile, energy cooperation has been boosted. Russia is China's main source of oil imports. Built in 2010, the China-Russia oil pipeline carries around 15 million tons of oil from Russia to China per year. With the beginning of the operation of its second line this year, the annual import scale will be doubled to 30 million tons. Under the context of globalization, the two countries' major economic strategies are in line with each other. China's Belt and Road Initiative is the perfect complement to the Eurasian Economic Union. Now, a polar Silk Road is in the works. Expectations remain high for the development of the two great countries.
Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has said in a recent presser that China-Russia comprehensive strategic partnership of coordination is as stable as Mount Tai. So as a facilitator and participant of bilateral ties, how do you evaluate the current state of bilateral ties?
王毅部长谈到的中俄关系稳如泰山，我想这是对中俄两国全力。
Foreign Minister Wang Yi said that the China-Russia Comprehensive Strategic Partnership of Coordination is as firm as a mountain. I think this is a very concise summary of its stable, important and unique features and a high recognition of its current development. As good friends, good partners and good neighbours, China and Russia, under the strategic guidance of the top leaders of the two countries, have steadily promoted their good neighbourly friendship and mutually beneficial cooperation. The two peoples, acting on the idea of a lasting friendship, have constantly developed the traditional friendship between the two countries. I would like to discuss the ties at several levels. The development of our bilateral ties has long been highly valued by the heads of state of the two countries and has proceeded along the general direction they have charted. Over the past 5 years, Chinese President Xi Jinping has paid 6 visits to Russia and has met his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, on more than 20 bilateral and multilateral occasions. For instance, the two leaders met 5 times last year. These meetings are very important, and at each of these meetings they had in-depth exchanges of views on bilateral ties and major international issues. It can be said that these meetings have charted the direction for the development of the two countries, made strategic planning for the further growth of bilateral ties, and the deepening and broadening of pragmatic cooperation between the two countries. Our embassy in Russia and the relevant departments at home will strive to implement, step by step, the consensus reached by the two heads of state by following the direction they have charted.
Ambassador Li, you have also said that the bilateral relations between China and Russia is one of the most important sets of bilateral ties in the world and one of the best example of major country relations. Why do you think the two countries can come so far? Besides the leadership of the two countries, what are the bases for such an example of major country relations in today's world?
For our two countries to develop a comprehensive strategic partnership of coordination, as a Chinese saying puts it, we enjoy the advantage of good timing, geographical convenience, and wide support of the people. We are, first of all, two big neighbouring countries sharing a border of more than 4,300 kilometres. The two peoples have had friendly exchanges for a long time, and the friendship between our two countries is deeply rooted. Meanwhile, our two countries are now working hard to build our respective countries and strive to make them into stronger powers. We both need a favourable external environment. Apart from that, as two major powers with great influence in the world and permanent members of the UN Security Council, China and Russia undertake their mission and responsibility of safeguarding regional and global peace, upholding fairness and justice for mankind. Therefore, the two countries have maintained close strategic coordination at the international level. It can be said we share identical or similar positions on many major international issues. We are facing our respective development opportunities as well as common challenges. Therefore, our common undertakings and goals require us to steadily strengthen our strategic coordination.
So last year, during the 19th Party Congress of the CPC, the thought that Xi Jinping thought of socialism with Chinese characteristics for the new era was brought up, and it seemed to have aroused much attention and discussion within different walks of life in Russia. How do you think that thought is going to impact bilateral ties in the next couple of years and even longer?
People in Russia have attached great importance to the 19th National Congress of the Communist Party of China, or CPC, especially to the report made by General Secretary Xi Jinping at the conference. They have made careful studies of the report. We sometimes joked that our Russian colleagues and scholars have conducted more in-depth studies on the CPC 19th Congress documents than we ourselves did. Many Russian scholars have come to see that the convening of the CPC 19th National Congress, the proposed idea of Xi Jinping's thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era in particular, are of great significance to China's future construction and development, especially its two-stage development plan. At the same time, they believe that the guiding principles of the 19th Congress, especially Xi's thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era, will bring new opportunities for deepening Russia-China relations and strengthening their cooperation. They also said that a new era has been ushered in for Sino-Russian relations. First, our two countries will help each other in promoting their respective national developments and making their respective countries even stronger. On certain issues, we can constantly exchange experiences. This is one aspect. For others, we can draw many useful things from each other in the furtherance of our legal systems. On our strategic coordination in the international arena, we can coordinate our positions and actions. On many major issues, we have often made some readjustments to coordinate our positions. These demonstrated our efforts to apply Xi's thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era to our bilateral relations.
So, as we all know, China and Russia are both members of the UN Security Council and also very important members of organizations such as G20, such as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization or the BRICS. So on very important hotspot issues such as the DPRK nuclear issue, such as the Iran nuclear issue and issues such as Syria, what kind of common stance do China and Russia share?
刚才我说过，这个中俄两国呢，都是
As I said just now, as permanent members of the UN Security Council, both China and Russia shoulder the historic mission of maintaining world peace, global stability, and upholding international fairness and justice. As a result, we have long shared similar or identical positions on solving major and hot world issues. We firmly oppose unilateralism and oppose imposing one's own will on others. In recent years, on some international hot issues, the DPRK nuclear issue, the Syrian issue for instance, China and Russia have had close coordination as we share common stands. We both uphold the settlement of any complicated issues through political means, through negotiations, through sitting at the negotiating table. For example, on the Syrian issue, China and Russia together used their veto powers 6 times at the UN Security Council. On the current nuclear issue on the Korean Peninsula, we both stand for a political solution through negotiations. We both have put forward the double suspension and a roadmap for the settlement of the Korean Peninsula nuclear issue. I think these all indicate that we have all along performed our responsibility and duty as permanent members of the Security Council by upholding the authority of the United Nations and abiding by the UN Charter.
So in the near future, how will China and Russia work together to promote the resolution of hotspot issues through peaceful means, through political means, to uphold the role of the United Nations as the leading mechanism to in global governance and perfecting the system?
很多重大问题上，我们都主张一定要发挥联合的作用。
We have emphasized the role of the United Nations in settling many major issues. The United Nations is the authoritative world body for solving any international issues, and the solution of any major issues cannot bypass the United Nations. As permanent members of the UN Security Council, China and Russia have maintained close coordination within the UN framework. On some specific issues, we have also cooperated closely in the principle of responsibility, fairness, justice, and upholding common values of mankind. I believe that in dealing with some major international issues, we will maintain close contact and coordination with various parties in the Security Council within the framework of the United Nations for fair solutions of the relevant issues.
So China will be the rotating chair of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization this year. This is the first time after new members have been absorbed. So what are the issues that people will pay attention to during the upcoming Qinghai summit of the SO this year?
This year's SCO summit will be held in Qingdao, East China. This is a very important summit. Since its establishment in 2001, the SCO has played a positive role in the Shanghai spirit and made important contributions to safeguarding peace and stability and promoting prosperity and development in the region. As both founding members of the group, China and Russia have maintained close coordination within the SCO framework. As for the problems facing the SCO, I think one is ensuring security and peace in the region. This calls for the close cooperation of all member states in resolutely cracking down on terrorism and safeguarding peace and security in the region. On the other hand, we need everyone to strengthen cooperation and achieve rapid economic and social development of all countries in the region. The Belt and Road Initiative, proposed by China, has provided a very important platform and opportunity for strengthening cooperation among SCO member states and achieving prosperity and rapid development. I think the related issues will be further discussed and studied at the Qingdao summit.
So talking about economic development, for the year 2017, bilateral trade turnover reached over 84 billion US dollars. That's an increase of over 1/5 and the highest level in the past 3 years. However, there are also problems such as the unbalanced structure of bilateral economic ties or the stallment of the creation of free trade zones. So looking ahead to 2018, what kind of potential can be tapped into to boost economic and trade ties between the two sides?
In 2017, the trade volume between China and Russia reached 84 billion US dollars, an increase of 20%. I think this is somewhat remarkable. Against the backdrop of a global economic downturn, China-Russia trade has maintained an upturn. I think this is the result of joint efforts by both sides and the close attention and steady push by the two heads of state and the two governments. While this result is pleasing, there is still great potential for the economic and trade growth of the two countries. In fact, our two heads of state have laid down ambitious blueprints and long-term goals, as well as specific plans for the economic and trade development of the two countries. We both need to work hard to tap these potentials and fulfill the goals set by the two heads of state. What is this goal? For example, the two heads of state have set the goal of raising our trade volume to 200 billion US dollars by 2020, so we still have a lot to do. I'm full of confidence. Just now you asked what we need to do next to constantly push the development of bilateral trade. I think the first thing to do is to continuously improve the trade structure. We have done a lot in this regard and achieved remarkable results. Meanwhile, we must further enhance the role of SMEs and strengthen the exchanges and cooperation between SMEs of the two countries. Great potentials remain to be tapped in this regard. Our two countries are paying increasingly greater attention to the role of SMEs in economic development. We should also give SMEs a greater role to play in economic and trade cooperation between the two countries. On the other hand, we can adopt further measures to help dovetail the Belt and Road Initiative and Eurasian Economic Union and achieve connectivity. This involves, in the first place, the development of Russia's Far East region. China and Russia can cooperate more closely to push forward the opening up and development of the Far East region. I think all these aspects have great potentials. In the future, both countries should continue to take active and practical steps along the direction set by the two heads of state and elevate their economic and trade cooperation to a new high.
So the year 2018 and the year 2019 will be years of local cooperation and exchanges between China and Russia. So how do you look at the prospects in those aspects and whether China is going to expand its commercial activity and capital input in the different regions of Russia?
I think it is very important for the leadership and the governments of the two countries to designate this year and next year as the years of China-Russia local cooperation and exchanges. Cooperation between local authorities of the two countries is an important part of the continuous and in-depth development of the China-Russia Comprehensive Strategic Partnership of Coordination. Cooperation between local authorities actually has played an important part in the steady development of Sino-Russian relations in recent years. In other words, local cooperation has achieved remarkable results and played a major role. According to our statistics, all of China's 31 provinces, autonomous regions and municipalities, except the Tibet Autonomous Region, have established ties of economic, trade cooperation and people-to-people exchanges. The majority of 85 federal regions in Russia have also formed close ties of cooperation and exchanges with local Chinese authorities. In the local cooperation between the two countries, two mechanisms play a major role. One is the cooperation and exchange mechanisms between northeast China and the Russian Far East region and eastern Siberia, and the other is the exchange and cooperation mechanism between the upper and middle reaches of the Yangtze River and the Volga Federal District. The two mechanisms are led by officials at the vice premier level of the two countries. These mechanisms have played an important role in recent years and have effectively promoted bilateral economic trade cooperation and people-to-people exchanges and yielded fruitful results. We believe that, propelled by the leadership and governments of the two countries, local cooperation will surely achieve even more fruitful results. Russia has taken seriously the deepening of local cooperation with China, and the Russian government has made great input in this regard. In recent years, several promotional expositions sponsored by Russian federal states were held in China, and some Russian enterprises, which were granted support and help by relevant Chinese authorities, are operating in China. We believe that as exchanges between local authorities grow further, local annual events will become more frequent and major cooperation projects will emerge. The embassy will provide the necessary services and help for this.
So China and Russia have become a most friendly country in the minds of people of both countries. What kind of role do you think national level activities jointly organized by these two countries have played in that process? For instance, Year of the Nation, Year of Language, media exchanges or youth exchanges activities?
Holding the Year of Russia in China and the Year of China in Russia is a strategic decision made by the two heads of state and is of great significance. I think these events have achieved marked effects. First of all, it has brought the two peoples emotionally closer to each other and enhanced their mutual understanding and trust. For example, the Russia-China Youth-Friendly Exchange Year further boosted the exchanges between the young people of the two countries and enabled them to gain a better understanding of the other country. Another example is Tourism Year of China in Russia and the Tourism Year of Russia in China. They serve to strengthen exchanges between the two peoples through tourism. In 2017, 1.5 million Chinese tourists visited Russia, and the number of Russian tourists visiting China is probably even higher. This year, as Russia will host a number of major events, including the Soccer World Cup, the number of Chinese tourists to visit Russia is expected to reach 2 million. China has become the largest source country of tourists for Russia. The increasing exchanges and contacts between the two peoples have indeed further deepened the traditional friendship between the two countries. According to a survey conducted by a Russian polling institution, in response to the question which country is the most friendly to Russia, China was regarded as the most friendly country by most respondents. I think all these are closely related to the events such as the Year of China and the Year of Russia in recent years.
So finally, I would like to ask you to react to some analysis that we've seen in the international media, for instance, saying that the relationship between China and Russia is a marriage of interest, only for short-term interest, for the time being, for convenience, and that when China and Russia coming closer, maybe it's going to pose greater threat and cause greater confrontation in the international arena. What is your reaction to these comments?
China and Russia have developed a comprehensive strategic partnership of coordination, and the two peoples have maintained friendly ties. I think this is a strategic choice made by our two countries. This is our long-term strategic goal, rather than an expedient measure. Our two countries are neighbours, and the two neighbouring major countries have to maintain friendship so that they can focus on our national development without extraneous worries to distract them, so that they can promote their national economies and bring greater benefits to their peoples. Therefore, the leadership of China and Russia, as well as the two peoples, have broad consensus and consistent views in this regard. We used to have close, friendly exchanges in the past, which have brought great practical benefits to our country. Our friendly relations do not pose any threat to any third party, nor do they target any third parties. Our friendship is precisely for the purpose of safeguarding world peace and upholding fairness and justice in the world, for the faster development of our respective countries and the better lives of our two peoples. Our two countries do not pose any threat to any countries. Some countries and some media have long harboured some misunderstandings or ulterior motives towards us. They are always uneasy about our two countries forming a comprehensive strategic partnership of coordination, and our two peoples maintaining traditional friendship. I think this is entirely unjustified. The fact that our two countries have developed a comprehensive strategic partnership of coordination and our two peoples have maintained traditional friendship can be nothing but an indispensable and important part conducive to the endeavour of maintaining world peace and stability.